Wow, this week has been a roller coaster. First I see In the Heights, which is so good. Then I see Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, which is so bad. And now the second episode of Loki drops on Disney Plus, and it's so good. My mood's going all over the place. So yeah, now I'm gonna talk about the second episode of Loki with spoilers. That is a spoiler warning. If you have not watched this episode yet, best to steer clear of this video unless you don't care. Alright, let's get started. And yeah, this episode was pretty freaking mind-blowing if you ask me. Miles ahead of the pilot in my opinion, since this season is 6 episodes, like Falcon and Winter Soldier being one story divided into 3 acts, so 2 episodes per act. So now we are done with Act 1 of Loki. The first episode was like the setup of the world and the characters. Now I feel like this second episode is the setup of the conflict, the big problem, the thing we have to deal with in this show. And it's pretty freaking cool. So this episode starts off in actually a pretty funny way. Loki is sitting and learning about the TVA with that Miss Minutes hologram that I really want. I want a Miss Minutes hologram of my own that I can swat at with a newspaper. I don't know, I just liked it. It was futuristic and retro at the same time. So now the TVA is hunting for this rogue Loki variant, as we learned at the end of the first episode, and our Loki, who I'm either gonna end up calling our Loki or Tom Loki, he's gonna help them out. He claims he's gonna help them out. We actually learn in this briefing that Loki is the TVA's most common kind of variant, because we see the different kinds of Loki. One's a giant monster with horns, another's a soccer player. It was really weird, it was funny. But okay, first the TVA goes to this Renaissance fair in Oshkosh, Wisconsin in 1985, and when Tom Loki is helping them out, the entire time I was like, I don't know if the TVA can really trust him or not. Cause he is Loki after all, you know? He's the god of mischief, he's a mischievous scamp, he's always scheming, he's always double-crossing, that's what he does. But the thing that's always been about Tom Loki is that he has so much charm and charisma that you let your guard down anyway, and you're like, maybe I can trust him this time. That's how he always gets ya. So during this entire episode, on every mission they go to, Wisconsin, Pompeii, Alabama, I was like, I don't know if he's actually trying to help the TVA or if he's double-crossing them. You never know, which is what keeps you on your feet during the show. This episode has some great dialogue too, in a couple of different scenes. The scene after Wisconsin where Loki and Mobius are going back and forth, they're discussing Loki's motivation. I was like, they both have really good points here. Mobius is like, remember that Loki who didn't like to talk? Where did he go? Cause now I can't shut him up. He keeps talking about what makes Loki tick. I was like, you asked for it. I don't know. So now they're trying to find ways to find this rogue Loki. They have 2 variables now because Loki figures out, in a genius way I might add, that if you have an apocalyptic event such as Ragnarok, you can go there beforehand and cause any disruption in the timeline you want. And as long as there are no survivors and no one gets away from the event, then the timeline will ultimately remain unchanged. There will be no sign of variance and there will be no branch event. That variable plus the kablooey gum variable, that allows Mobius and Tom Loki to hunt down this rogue Loki. I was like, that is brilliant, so clever. And so it's funny, they test out this apocalypse theory at Pompeii, you know, the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Yeah, they go there, they go to that event in time, you see the village and everything, and Loki sets free the goats. He's like, yes, you're all gonna die. And sure enough, there's no variance, no branch events. It was a pretty fun scene. It would have been cool though if we actually saw like the volcano wipe out the town and the aspect ratio would change to full screen or something, like the DB Cooper thing in the last episode. I'm just saying. So then we get to another great dialogue scene where Loki and Mobius are sitting down at the table because Loki is still having a hard time believing this place's true power, even after seeing Infinity Stones as paperweights in the first episode, I guess. But I mean, they're talking about the origins of this place, whether you believe it's real or not. You know, the fact that the TVA was created by the Timekeepers, these 3 deities who are overseeing all of time. It really does sound like the ultimate power in the entire universe. I feel like there's nothing above the Timekeepers now. And Mobius mentions that the Timekeepers are still working on it actually. I guess they're working on like way into the future. They're still straightening it out, I guess, until the end of time itself, which I guess there will be an end of time. I guess this show confirms it, at least in the MCU anyway. And Mobius says, once it's all said and done and there is peace in the timeline, then we can all just chill out and our purpose will be no more. Kinda reminds me of what Thanos said in Infinity War. I can finally rest. Watch the sun rise on a grateful universe. Maybe not the best thing ever though. Just saying. And then this show predicts the future, because we find out where our rogue Loki is. This rogue Loki is chilling out in the year 2050 in Alabama of all places. This giant electronics store owned by Roxcart, which there's your Roxcart. I'm guessing that's the future of what Roxxon is. Good to know. I do wonder if the MCU is still around by 2050, if we will see Roxcart. Like, I'm curious. I don't know. I mean, that's 29 years from now. I have no idea. Just saying though. But it's funny, once they get to Alabama in 2050, I came up with this theory. I was like, what if this rogue Loki is Lady Loki? Because I did hear rumors around the internet that Lady Loki would be Sophia DiMartino's character in this show, and plus that would make her more unrecognizable to the TVA, because her face would be completely different. So those 2 things added up, and sure enough, the big reveal at the end of the episode, surprise, our rogue Loki is in fact Lady Loki, played by Sophia DiMartino. And wow, this Lady Loki is certainly capable of doing a lot of things that we've never seen any Loki do before. I guess she can transfer her consciousness through people. She can, like, talk through people like they're her puppets. Kind of like Janet Van Dyne did to Scott Lang from the Quantum Realm and Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's what it reminded me of anyway. But I've never seen Tom Loki do that before. And it's cool though, as Tom Loki is talking to these people who Lady Loki is possessing, he's revealing his true intentions here. See? Again, you can't trust him. He's not really trying to help out the Time Variance Authority here. He has his own scheme and plan. Apparently, by gaining the TVA's trust, he is planning to overthrow the Timekeepers, which is a really ballsy plan to have, if they are what the TVA says they are. And Tom Loki's like, I could use a lieutenant. Are you in? Lady Loki ultimately refuses his offer. And okay, this is weird. Tom Loki has a little throwdown with one of the people that Lady Loki possesses. And there's a point during this fight where he, like, uses the Force to call this item to him. I was like, since when can Loki do that? We all knew that Thor could call his hammer or Stormbreaker to him. That's been around since day one. I didn't know that Loki had that same kind of power. That's new to me. But anyway, that's when we have the big reveal of Lady Loki, and she looks really cool, yeah, with her little horn crown thing. And then she escapes, but not before setting off a huge, giant mess, because she sends all these bombs, I'm assuming, to different places in the timeline. So now Lady Loki has caused what I'm pretty sure is the most disastrous event in the history of the Time Variance Authority. You see all these different time branches going off. This timeline is going all out of whack. Even Ravonna Renslayer is like, what the fuck? And yeah, me watching this, I was like, holy shit. And then Tom Loki escapes with Lady Loki, or he goes after her. So yeah, now Tom Loki has escaped the TVA. He's going after Lady Loki. He probably wants to work with her or something. I guess we'll see where that goes in episode 3. But yeah, holy shit, this episode, that was some shit to be sure. Also, I'm gonna talk about the score here because I haven't talked about it yet. Natalie Holt is a composer for the show, and yeah, I'll tell you, this score is something else. I did think the end credits music in the first episode was a little overdramatic, but the end credits music in this episode, which is different, it's good, it's justified. Because of the ending of this episode, it's like, holy shit. And of course, if I'm talking about the score of Loki, I have to talk about the theremin. I actually have a friend who told me that theremin is criminally underused in scores these days, so when he heard it throughout the entire first episode of Loki, he was like overjoyed. And yeah, it's cool, theremin is a pretty cool instrument. I do like hearing it, yeah, because it is pretty underused in scores these days. So nice going, Natalie Holt. That's a pretty unique score you got going there. Can't wait to hear the rest of it. So, the second episode of Loki, titled The Variant. Have you watched it yet? What do you think about it? And what do you think of the musical score so far? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.